Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food and with movement. And today I want to talk about fear foods because maybe you saw my short and I will start something that I call Fear Food Friday. So feel free to participate where I will eat your fear foods because I feel like if you see someone else eating them, it might be a little bit less scary and you might see that it's totally normal to eat those foods. And I don't have any fear foods anymore, so I thought that would be a great idea. So feel free to comment under this video or to comment under the shorts that I will post every Friday. Tell me your fear foods and we will challenge them together. But I also want to talk about why we have fear foods and what it is about. So when I was sick, honestly, pretty much everything and nothing was a fear food at the same time. Because what I was fearing was calories. I had a very certain number in my head and I would allow myself to eat this number in combination with a lot of walking and working out. And everything that would fit in this number was fine, was safe. So I would eat chocolate, I would eat some cheese, and oftentimes I would choose the low calorie options just in order to be able to eat more for the calories that I allow myself. But I didn't really have certain fear foods. The fear foods actually became a thing when I started to recover because part of me, and I have to be honest here, part of me didn't want to challenge certain foods because that would have meant to let go of my eating disorder even more, which of course should be the goal. But when you're in recovery, sometimes your eating disorder gets loud and it's like, well, like maybe hold on to me a little bit. So if you're still trying to avoid certain foods, you're still kind of disordered. And that's what your eating disorder wants. Of course, that is not what we want in recovery. And if you would be in my coaching program, I would definitely try to challenge that. But it is a very common thing. And this is why it is so important to challenge these fear foods because, again, you want to recover, you want to fully recover, and everything else is just your eating disorder being a little bit louder because it knows that it's like slowly but surely going away. And so when you challenge your fear foods, you're actually doing something for yourself and for your own health and for your recovery. But it is oftentimes not enough to like eat the fear food 1 or 2 times. Oftentimes you have to eat them over and over and over and over and over again because that is how your brain learns, oh, it is actually pretty safe to eat it. If you eat it once, great. But if you then start to avoid it again or like concentrate on other foods, then your brain will have a harder time to eat it a couple of weeks later. So if you try to eat it as many times as possible and as often as possible, your brain will definitely learn that it's actually safe. And sometimes the fear foods actually become safe foods, which is amazing. So in my recovery, I remember I had a big thing with pizza because that was one of those things. I was like, oh, I didn't have pizza yet since I started recovery. So if I like just restricted it a little bit longer, I might hold on to my sick meal a little bit longer. I remember I went to a pizza place with my family and my thoughts were super loud and I was really struggling. I was already weight restored, or actually like already in overshoot weight. So I think nobody actually really noticed how much I was still mentally struggling. But internally I was struggling. I tried to prepare myself and one part of me was like, I really want pizza. I haven't had real pizza in like 10 years and I really just want to eat pizza. And the other part of me was like, well, you could also go for the salad as you always do and restrict the pizza because then you show your family that you're still struggling. And this is also something that we of course always have to work about. You have to learn to use your words and your voice because a lot of people that I'm working with tell me, well, my eating disorder is kind of my way to show people around me that I'm struggling. And while that is a very common thing, you have to learn to find other ways to express that because otherwise your eating disorder will still have a meaning or will still have a purpose. And so when you start to learn like, hey, I can actually talk to the people and be like, I know it might not seem like it, but I'm really still struggling. So please take me serious. Please don't make any comments. Then your eating disorder will definitely have no purpose anymore. Then it's like, oh, what do I even need my eating disorder for? Because now I found another way to express that. So that being said, it is super important to challenge your fear foods. But from a scientific standpoint, it also makes sense why we have fear foods. We learned a lot of things about foods probably through diet culture. For a lot of people, it's also due to their families, friends, or anything else. And then we also teach ourselves a lot of food rules. Everyone that I'm working with have certain food rules and a lot of them are like pretty similar, but everyone also has different food rules. Some people avoid this food group, some people avoid that food group, and for other people it's not avoiding a food group, but just avoiding high calories. For other people it's like only eating in a time frame or time window. So there's all those different rules out there, and I promise you everyone with an eating disorder has certain food rules. And so the more we teach ourselves these food rules, the more we avoid certain foods in our eating disorder or to avoid to eat at certain times in our eating disorder, the more our brain will learn that this is unsafe, that you have to avoid them, and it will become like a warning signal, because that is what our brain is made for. Our brain is not made for making us happy, it's made for making us survive. So when we teach our brain, oh, pizza is scary, pizza is dangerous, then our brain will learn that. And evolutionarily spoken, it makes sense, because if let's say there was a berry in the forest that we lived in, and it was like someone else had it and they like threw up and had like stomach issues, and so we learned it is dangerous, it is poisonous. So of course we avoid this berry. So every time we see it, the warning signals in our brain will like start to flicker and be like, hey, don't eat that berry. And this is actually the same thing that we're doing to ourselves with our food rules. So whenever something that we told ourselves is unhealthy, too high in calories, too high in fat and carbs, whatever, because again, those food rules are like so arbitrary and they never really make sense. If I talk to 10 people, they will have 10 different food rules, and none of them will actually be a rule where I'm like, okay, it makes sense to avoid that food. So if you're like highly allergic to someone, yes, please avoid that food. That is probably one of the only reasons where I'm like, that rule makes sense, because you will have an allergic reaction. Every other food rule is literally just a construct of your eating disorder. So challenging these food rules and challenging these fear foods will help your brain to relearn that it's safe. So let's say we just had the poisonous berry in our example, and then there's another berry. It's like a raspberry, but we don't know that berry. And we're always avoiding it because we're like, the other berry was poisonous already, so I will just avoid all berries just to be safe. Then we see our animal eating the berry, it's fine. Then your sister eats the berry, she's fine. So you're like, I might give it a try. Your brain might still feel danger, you might still feel a little bit anxious, you try it, nothing happens. So the next time you will feel a little bit safer, but you might also be like, well, maybe it was just a small amount, so if I eat more of the berry, I might still have a reaction. So you try a little bit more of the berry and you're still fine. And this is basically the same thing when it comes to food rules and fear foods. So the reason why we have to challenge our fear foods are so that our eating disorder doesn't have a reason to stick around, so that we learn that we don't need those habits to express our emotions and to have like an eye-to-eye and like grown-up conversation, and to rewire our brain and show it that it is safe to have those foods. And I will tell you, I will promise you, the more you challenge your fear foods, the more normal it will become. Someone actually commented, liquid calories, a super, super common example, probably one of the the biggest rules for a lot of people with eating disorders. It was definitely a big thing for myself too. But once I started to have, hot chocolate, maybe a glass of wine here and there, maybe a smoothie, a shake, the more I did that, the more normal I became. I went out for lunch with friends yesterday and we all ordered those like homemade smoothies. I didn't even have a second thought. I was like, I'm super hungry, I'm super thirsty, my body is craving those ingredients, so of course I'm gonna have a smoothie. It sounds amazing. So you will definitely come to a point where those fear foods won't be fear foods anymore and will be a completely normal part of your life. So I really hope that helps. And by the end of this video, I just want to mention a few things. First of all, thank you so much for everyone who's like made it this far, who's watching my videos, who's commenting, who's interacting. It is actually super helpful for my channel if you like, if you comment. Of course, if you subscribe, if you like my videos, if you tell other people about it, because my goal is really to reach as many people as possible and to make this a community and a safe space where we can like continue to challenge your fears and your eating disorders and like kind of like recover together. This is number one. Number two, I currently have a few open spots for coaching. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me on TikTok, on Instagram, down here, or on my website. You can find me everywhere under Heal with Marlene. Very simple. I love to see you guys on other platforms as well. A few of you like texted me on other platforms and I always love to see that. So feel free to follow me there. Number three is I do plan on like creating more free resources for you and also like an online Kickstart recovery course. So give me some time to prepare everything because I really want this to be a good experience for y'all. But just know there's like way more coming for you guys. And my last question for you is I'm currently thinking about starting a podcast as well because I know that we don't always have time time to watch videos. And so for some of you, it might actually be more convenient to just listen to a podcast when you're driving, when you're like, you know, walking your dog or whatever you're doing. So please let me know if you would be interested in a podcast, if you would like to listen to it, and if you know other people who might be interested in it as well. That being said, thank you guys so much for being here. You can always text me your questions. Feel free to make any video suggestions. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one.